What's up, guys? How's everybody doing today? So we got this new movie that popped up on Netflix called Sandcastle. The two probably biggest names that you'll recognize are Nicholas Hoult and Henry Cavill. And basically what the movie's about, it's a small military team that's kind of forced to go to a town that's not totally in US control, somewhere in the Sunni Triangle in Iraq. And this team basically has to oversee the repair of a water facility because this village is not getting any clean water. And the reason why is because some military ordnance just messed up some of the pipes in the facility, so they have to make sure it gets repaired. And in so doing, they encounter some resistance and they kind of have to get a little bit of help from the locals, and then you kind of have your movie. And overall, the first thing that I noticed is that Henry Cavill is the fucking man. Like, seriously, I totally understand why he's Superman now, because that dude knows how to be a chameleon and just fall into whatever role he's assigned to do. Didn't have a lot of screen time, but still did a really good job. And of course, Nicholas Hoult, world-class actor. He's awesome in pretty much everything. And he plays a very, very, very good soldier who's like not totally sure of himself and still trying to kind of figure himself out. And the main thing that I'll say about this movie as a whole is that it seems very realistic. And I say seems because I've never been in the military. I've never been like overseas into a war-torn area, so I can't say exactly for sure that it is, 100% accurate to a T. But for the most part, almost everything in the movie seemed like the logical thing that would happen in that scenario, if that makes any sense. And the overarching theme, I don't know if this is what the filmmakers were going for necessarily, but this is kind of what I took out of it, is that no matter what side of like an argument, there's always gonna be those one or two dickbags that have to fuck it up for everybody else. Like, there's always going to be disagreements in something no matter what you're involved in, but even if you disagree, normally, if you can be civil, then it's usually kind of okay. Because I have disagreements with my friends, I'm sure you do too. But you don't hold it against them and you don't hold it over their head and make a big deal about it. Or at least, if you're a logical human being. There's always those assholes that just take it way too far and make everybody on your side look bad. Again, not sure if that's what they were going for, but that's what I took out of it. And that's not even just with the movie, that's just like a life lesson in general. And I said the movie seemed realistic, and partially because the writer of the movie was actually a machine gunner, I believe back when the Iraq War first started. And I don't know if it's loosely based on a particular event, but I think it was just kind of sort of based on his experiences, as a military man, which kind of gives credibility to the kind of like altruistic kind of reality that the movie gives off. And the movie is also very like matter of fact, I guess you could say. It doesn't really like sugarcoat anything. It just puts it all out there and you just kind of have to take it at face value. Like, from the main character's perspective, like, certain things will really, really affect you emotionally, but you can't just let that shit determine your actions. Because when you enlist in the military, you just, you have to do what you're told, and you just kind of have to roll with the punches, and you have to carry out your orders in like the most agreeable way possible, and sometimes that's a little more complicated, or at least it's more complicated than you might think it is, which also adds on to the fact that the movie points out how complicated it is when you're with a group of people that you don't fully understand and you didn't grow up with them, so you don't know them as well. At least not as well as like you're a fellow countryman that's like on the other side of the country. At least you can relate to something because you both have that, that stigma. But when you're in a different environment, different culture, different kind of people, and you try to reach this happy medium with people, it's very difficult and it is very complicated. So it's like the movie like really philosophically tried to like make you understand what everybody's side of whatever argument was. Like, the movie did a really good job of making all the characters super relatable. Like, a lot of the characters had their priorities towards life like kind of stated somewhere in the movie. And again, that's another attribute to like how well written this freaking movie was. And overall, I thought the movie was pretty well directed, just like in general. And the movie, I thought, like really like stayed on track. Like, it almost always took the perspective of just the Americans, because the writer really could only take that perspective because it's his own. Like, the movie didn't pretend to empathize with the locals, but it did try to sympathize a little bit with like the interactions that they had with the American soldiers. It's like they understood where the other people were coming from, but they didn't know it, kind of, if that makes any sense. Like, all the action scenes that felt like you were kind of like there with the soldiers, because it always came from like their perspective. There wasn't really like a bird's eye view sometimes, which is cool, but I also think that's kind of a fault of the movie because you couldn't really see the whole layout of everything. But I don't know what the budget for this movie was, so I'm kind of putting that as a negative, but it's like a really soft negative because there was a continuity to all the action scenes. It just wasn't like you can see like the bigger picture of it is all. And the movie is also very, very bittersweet, which I totally understand, because it's like everybody in the team is trying to do something good ultimately, but you're gonna catch a few hits. Just because you have those good intentions doesn't mean that it's always gonna end well for you. I'm not gonna spoil any part of the movie, but just take that however you will. And another thing this movie did very well that I also thought the movie Fury that came out a couple years did a good job with was that they really demonstrated how like hellish it is to be in a war zone. Like, this movie is not for the faint-hearted. Like, you actually, like, there's some rough shit that happens in the movie, but I mean, you can kind of figure that. But yeah, overall it was good. Some things could have been a little bit better, but I mean, you can say that about most movies though. So basically, if you're into those kind of war movies, like maybe Black Hawk Down or like a Saving Private Ryan, you'll probably dig this movie. I'd say for an overall rating, I'm gonna give it an 8.6 out of 10. A little bit of overacting in the beginning, and maybe a few things could have been changed up here and there, but overall, I thought it was a pretty solid flick. So if you got got Netflix and you can put up with, you know, a slightly depressing film, I'd definitely say check it out. But yeah, anyway, those are my thoughts, guys. What are your thoughts? Did you see this movie? Have you heard of it? Drop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Other than that, just give me a like, subscribe, do all that other bullshit, and I'll catch you guys later.